Welcome to Taiwan Report News Brief, news and analysis from Taiwan. I'm Donovan Smith. All right, up today on the program, a marriage equality survey is out, offering a look at where society is at on the eve of the one-year anniversary of marriage equality. TSMC is going to be made in the USA. Returning Taiwanese firms' pledges have reached 1 trillion NT. Yes, with a T. The outgoing VP is giving away his salary and pension. The king of Hualien is going to jail. And finally, 3 stories on the poor PRC being snubbed. But up first, coronavirus. Yay. Taiwan confirmed no new cases of the COVID-19 coronavirus for the 8th consecutive day on Friday. It was also the 33rd straight day with no domestically transmitted infections. A stricter set of quarantine measures for returning far sea fishermen will go into effect on May 18th. And some good news. The number of spectators allowed at baseball games is to be raised to 2,000. As Taiwan approaches the one-year anniversary of its legalization of same-sex marriage on May 24th, nearly 93% of Taiwanese say the policy has had no impact on them, according to the results of a survey. Regarding the policy's impact on Taiwanese society, 50.1% said there had been no effect, while 28.4% said the effect was negative. 11.9% said it was positive, and 9.6% expressed no opinion. More than 65% of those surveyed said they could accept learning that a family member, classmate, or coworker identified as homosexual. However, a slightly lower 49.2% said they could accept learning that their own child was gay, while 47.3% said it would be difficult to accept. The respondents said they favored allowing same-sex couples to adopt children by 56.8% to 38.4% margin, but opposed allowing them to have children using artificial reproduction technologies by a margin of 50.1 to 42.1. Well, this survey suggests wider acceptance than the results of the referendums in 2018. There is a ways to go before it can be said it is universally accepted. It's curious that the majority opposed artificial reproduction technologies to have kids. This technology has been widely available to straight couples for quite some time. Taiwan's semiconductor manufacturing company, widely known as TSMC, said on Friday it will build a semiconductor facility in Arizona. Total spending on the project will be 12 billion US dollars, with TSMC claiming it will directly create 1,600 jobs. Construction is planned to start in 2021. The factory will be focused on producing so-called 5 nanometer chips, the latest in semiconductor technology being manufactured today, so presumably a bit behind the cutting edge when the plant is finished. The U.S. government most likely put pressure on the firm over national security concerns over the supply chain of key components. Secretary of State Mike Pompeo tweeted after the announcement, saying, "This tweet bolsters U.S. national security at a time when China is trying to dominate cutting edge tech and control critical industries." Pledges of investments by Taiwanese companies have reached 1 trillion NT dollars since the government launched a series of incentive programs last year, the Ministry of Economic Affairs said on Thursday. So far, 480 firms have made investment pledges under the 3 major investment programs that are geared toward overseas Taiwanese businesses, domestic corporations that have never invested in China or other countries, and locally based SMEs, or small and medium sized enterprises. The investment plans are expected to create 82,555, that's exactly to the 5, new job opportunities in Taiwan, including 61,814 jobs with 188 Taiwanese companies operating overseas. Okay, I get that they can have an exact number on the number of companies here, but I don't know how they get the exact number to the person with the jobs. But all right. In reality, some of these pledges will likely fail to materialize, but many will and already have. Regardless of the final tally, the program has been a huge success. With incoming Vice President William Lai set to be inaugurated on the 20th, outgoing Vice President Chen Jianren said he would give up his pension and privileges and return to his position as a research fellow at Academia Sinica. That would save the nation about $23 million in the first 4 years after he leaves office. Now, he was also asked about William Lai, and he said that Lai is more experienced in politics and more capable than he is. Chen is widely known for being humble. Well, after musing about independent legislator Fu Quanxi, the so-called king of Hualien, yesterday on the show, lo and behold, the very next day, he's back in the news. Turns out he will have to serve 2 years and 10 months in prison after the Supreme Court yesterday upheld a lower court ruling that found him guilty of insider trading and stock manipulation in the late 1990s. However, the judges did not suspend Fu's civil rights, allowing him to maintain his legislative seat. Fu said his aides and office staff would continue to serve his constituents throughout his imprisonment. Now, the Hualien chapters of both the ruling DPP and the KMT called on Fu to resign so that a new lawmaker can be elected who can better serve the needs of the county's residents. Now, as I mentioned yesterday, in the run-up to the KMT chair by-election, there was considerable talk of restoring Fu's party membership to boost the size of the KMT caucus. During his campaign, Johnny Chang was the least enthusiastic about it, simply saying he could reapply and it would be handled through normal procedures. In other words, making it clear he wouldn't make any special exceptions or exemptions for him. Now, that now looks like a very good call. In other political news, the DPP is suspending the Taipei party chair race until after President Tsai resumes her role as party chair. The race has turned vicious, with the two candidates accusing each other of bribery. Other local party chair races will continue as normal. Beijing is mulling expanding its travel bubble, covering China to include Taiwan, Hong Kong, and Macau, as well as South Korea. The idea is to cut red tape and fast-track health and quarantine checks so people crossing borders within the 5 jurisdictions will have minimum hassle. However, in spite of lobbying by Taishang, or Taiwanese business people in China, President Tsai Ing-wen said last week that any easing of restrictions would not include China. China has continued to demand Taiwan accept the One China principle, in other words, that Taiwan bows to their illegitimate claim that it is part of China, as a precondition to allowing Taiwan into the World Health Organization or the upcoming World Health Assembly. Apparently, China is confident of their control over the WHO. However, at a news conference in Taipei, Health Minister Chen Shizhong rejected China's precondition, saying, quote, "I have no way to accept something which does not exist." In an interview with Fox Business, President Trump appeared to be threatening to cut ties with China. He said at one point, quote, "We could cut off the whole relationship." "If you did, what would happen?" Trump asked. "You'd save $500 billion if you cut off the whole relationship." And later, at the end of the show, the interviewer asked, "How are you going to have a partnership with China when you can't trust anything they say and do?" "It may be hard to do," said Trump. Now, of course, cutting off the whole relationship isn't going to happen. Too much of the U.S. economy and the supply chains that feed it are dependent on China. This is, however, very much part of a pattern playing out around the world. Both the President and Secretary of State Pompeo have been hardening their line against China. And as we saw in the case of TSMC, they are actively working to reduce reliance on Chinese manufacturing. Now, this is also true of Taiwan, as well as Japan, which has also introduced financial incentives for their companies to leave China. National security is probably not the only consideration for Trump, however. It is an election year, and both Joe Biden and Trump are vying to be seen as the toughest on China. China has been looming large recently in the presidential race. Of course, tune in tomorrow. Hit like, hit subscribe, and go to report.tw for English language articles on all these topics.
This has been brought to you by the Taiwan Report. For more content like this, become our patron at report.tw.
哎呦，就是那个台湾狗啦，最喜欢我的台湾狗了。